Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. Now, we are working on a Williams Grand Prix, also known as the most common game we work on. Apparently, they sold a ton of these things. We do videos on these, of course. You're watching it right now. And people will buy a game, and then they Google the game that they just got. And Google's pretty good about suggesting our videos to people. So a lot of times our video will pop up in the results, and they'll click it, and then they see that we're near them, or they might Google Williams Grand Prix repair or something. So anyway, we have this thing going on where if we do a video on a game, it makes it really likely that we get another game just like it, same title, into repair. So we've had several of these Grand Prix. This time around, somebody brought us one before the guy that had the other one even picked it up. So we've got two of them in the building at the same time right now. So I just figured I'd show you that for a second. This is the one that we finished a while back. The gentleman hasn't picked it up yet. And then this is the one that we got today. So I just figured I'd show you both of them together before we get into it. So there's two of them in the house. It is a really cool game and very fun to play, but it's also very complex. So it takes a lot of work to get one going again because you basically have to work through every little thing in it. And this was one of the last Williams electromechanical games, so it's just full of stuff. They threw the kitchen sink in this one. But we'll get into that later. But I just wanted to show you two of them side by side. You don't see that too often, but here we are. Now, hopefully we can get this one to work as good as that one, because that one works really good right now. All right, folks. So we have two of them now at the same time. Now, we've gotten in several of these. Like I said, I think we've had 4 or 5 of them at least. But let's see what kind of shape this thing's in. It's got a South Carolina sticker on it, tax sticker from 2004. So they were still flipping a game from 1977 or 76 in 2004. That's pretty impressive. Very little wear from the kick out up at the top. You know, just there. A lot of that'll probably clean up pretty well where you won't even be able to tell. The pop bumpers, of course, they had Mylar around them. Very little wear there. Even the spinners don't have a ton of wear on them. I don't see any obviously broken plastics. Plastics are all pretty good. Got a little flipper drag though, so we'll have to make sure we do something with that. Let me show you this too on the apron. See that blue smear there? A lot of these aprons, the ink, the way it was silk screened on there, if you wipe them off with like soapy water, it will come right off. You got to be careful about that. You know what you can clean them with where it won't come off? Wax, believe it or not. Wax is a cleaner. The same thing with the score reels. If you have a score reel and you want to clean it that's really dirty, if you use wax, it'll clean it right up and won't take the paint off of the score reel. Now on this particular one, on these, the reason that last one is so light is because that's actually a fake score reel. All right, so the back glass itself, decent shape, but it's got some flaking here on the red, and the red has faded pretty significantly all over, but it's evenly faded. So you have this kind of burgundy color and then this red that looks almost pink, but it's faded everywhere. Maybe it was pink originally. It couldn't have been because they never would have made the Williams logo pink. It was always red. So it's just red that's faded, but that's fine. It doesn't look that bad. And then down here at the bottom, we've got the wicking situation. If you spray Windex on the back glass, it gets down here in this channel, and then it kind of wicks up through the paint, and it makes the very bottom of the back glass flake away. But all in all, decent back glass. Not bad. I certainly wouldn't replace it if it was mine. The cabinet, very nicotined, very yellowed, but that's all right. It looks like maybe there was a sticker on there at some point that's been removed. And then the back box is a completely different color. I've seen this a lot. I don't know why it does that, but maybe it's constructed of different materials or something. I don't know. And then you've got a little bit of water damage here on the pressed wood that they used for the frame of the back box. I don't know why they did that. Well, I know why, because it's cheaper probably, but you know, in the 70s, in the 60s and the 70s, pressed wood was considered like, or they at least marketed it as if it was a step up from plywood. So, whatever. Here's the back. It's got the door on it still. And they have taped a new cord to the old cord. Not ideal, but it's been done a lot. This side, pretty good shape. Now, it's worth noting that most of the art is in really nice shape. If you look at the actual stenciling, it looks really good. It's just, it's all nicotined. Right? Okay, so let's pop the back off of it and see what it looks like inside the back box. If I didn't mention it yet, Grand Prix is one of the most complex EM pinball machines of all time because it was one of the last ones. So they just loaded it down. This thing has everything, right? So it has 5 score reels per player plus the dummy reel, which is that one. Which means that you have 4 extra score reels to clean, right? So there's 20 score reels to clean. Of course, you've got your credit unit or replay unit. This is the player unit. And then you've got a 0 to 9 unit or a match unit up here. You've got several score reset relays and then several score relays. Everything looks fine. I don't see anything obviously hacked up. I don't see anything that looks like, what in the world were they thinking? I see a couple things that look like maybe they've been repaired, but I don't see anything jumping out at me as, oh Lord, what did they do? So just, you know, the typical stuff. I don't see anything that's like a big problem or anything. So that looks good. All right, so let's take the glass off and look inside underneath the playfield. All right, so we got it opened up. They have a Philly blunt box in it to catch those quarters. It's a good thing for it. At the antique store around here, they sell cigar boxes for like $4 or $5 a piece. A bunch of used rubber rings. There is a relay here. Sometimes these are used, like they got it off something else just so that they could have parts. So we'll see if we end up needing that. Here is the chime box. It's missing the little bar on the top and the shepherd's hook that holds it in place. So we might have to see if we can track that down. See all the shavings there? The metal shavings? That comes from the chimes being worn out. So, we got anything metal here? So whenever the coil sends the little knocker up to hit it, it's going to sound like this. I would imagine that one has probably already had the plunger pop out of it. No, it's burned up, so it's stuck in there. Yeah, so we're going to need some Gonna need some chime box parts. So all of those shavings are where the rubber bushings that go under this have deteriorated. And now this aluminum bar is just riding on this metal plate and just tearing itself apart. So, as a matter of fact, well, we'll leave it in. I was going to say let's unplug it, but it'll be cool to try to hear it. Okay, score motor looks fine. I don't know, they may have sprayed WD-40 all over everything because it all looks kind of dark. But we'll see. I think it's the ball in play one, and that's the coin one. Or maybe that's the player up one, and that's the coin one. I can't remember. No, this is ball in play, I think. Stepper unit, they look fine. It was right at the end, made by Williams, and they just threw everything in it. So it does everything that an EM can pretty much do. They just kept going and kept going and kept going until they came up with Grand Prix. There's a couple more around that time that are similarly complicated, like Aztec, I think, is like that too. Pretty wild. All right, so there's another board here with more relays on it because they're trying to do a lot, folks. They're trying to do a lot, so they need a lot. So this is the bonus stepper unit, but on this particular machine, there's two of them. Now, if you're watching this as part of our playlist, you've seen we've done this same game over and over again because I think what happens is people get a Grand Prix, it doesn't work, and then they Google Grand Prix pinball repair, and our video pops up like first result or something. And then if they're local, they go, I'm going to take my Grand Prix to them. That's not that far. And they bring it to us. So we keep getting the same games over and over again, which is fine. So, yeah, it just happens to be very complex. So these four things are drop targets. And the Williams electromechanical drop targets were a pretty big, clunky thing with one whole big mech dedicated to one big drop target. So it's also got two pop bumpers. Two pop bumpers. It also has 1, 2, 3 eject holes. It has 2 spinners with a row of lamps that are lit by this little spinner unit. One for the left and one for the right. And then these are the bonus ladders. It has 2 bonuses, like we said. Then it has the traditional 2 kickers and the traditional 2 flippers. The thing is freaking loaded. Look at that. It's even heavier than most machines. Now, I will say, let me give you a little preview. Are you ready for a preview? You probably want a preview. I will say we have recently gotten in a Gottlieb Royal Flush. And Joey made the comment that the Royal Flush was about the heaviest damn game he's ever seen. It's so heavy, you know, we're not small guys. We're up over 200 pounds. You can stand on the pinball dolly and the thing won't go up in the air. Yeah, you can stand on the pinball dolly without lifting the thing. I don't want to do it right now whenever I don't have both hands. Okay, so this one's very heavy, but that one, the Gottlieb game, was made around the same time. They just were throwing all kinds of stuff in these machines at that point. So, what are we going to do first? Well, I think maybe the first thing we'll do is try to play it and just see if it does anything. And then maybe we'll a little better understand how the customer's looking at it and see what they're thinking and why they brought it to us. Will it play at all? Will it do anything? So the way you can tell sometimes is you can look at what the score reels are doing. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the playfield back down, and then we'll look at the back glass and see what the score reels are at, and that'll tell a little bit of the story. Tax sticker, they were still operating it somewhere in 2004. Pretty wild. Okay, so all of the score reels are reset, except for that one. So let's try to start it and see if it won't start. And then let's try resetting that one score reel to see if that gets it to start. What do you think? Now, we just looked at everything. Obviously, it needs completely gone through all kinds of things service. But it could be that that one score reel not acting right is what crashed the whole game. So I plugged it in, and when I did, it immediately came on. It says game over. The match is lit. Right. So let's see if we can start it. Do not have any credits. They want us to get it where it'll take quarters again. But let's see here. Nothing. Let's see what happens if I try to give it a quarter. Good old Williams coin door. Yeah, it reset it. Kick the ball out. I don't want to play it too much because everything's worn. It's limping along, folks. Good for it. Look at it, wanting to go. I have this philosophy about these. I'll tell you here in a second. For those of you that are watching the video for more than ooh, hit the ball. We've had people rage quit because I talked about something that wasn't the pinball machine. Oh, heaven forbid. So I have this philosophy. These are inanimate objects. These do not have a soul or anything like that. They're not human, obviously. They're not even an animal. It's just an inanimate object. However, they were built by humans. People spent a portion of their life, even if it was 8 hours one day, building this thing. This was all built by humans. It was designed by humans, right? So it's got a little bit of the spirit of a human tied up in it, even though it's an inanimate object. So it can't think for itself or anything like that. But there's kind of a spirit involved in it. There's some energy there, right? And so whenever you go to start the thing, or whenever you go to work on it, sometimes they cooperate a little bit. Like this one's cooperating a little bit. Now, is it doing that with any kind of conscience? No, probably not, but because it's an inanimate object. But it is cooperating, so it's going to be a little easier to fix because it wants to be fixed. If you think about it, what was this thing built for? A bunch of people got together and decided they wanted to make it so that you could play it and have fun. That's its only purpose. So it's kind of working towards its purpose. Now, it's been neglected, needs a little work, it's been damaged, right? But the only thing it's good for is to play, let somebody stand there and play pinball. It's going to work towards that end however it can. Now, again, it's not an animate object, but think about it like this. It's standing up where we can play it. Why? Because it's designed that way, right? And the legs are well bolted on, and that's the purpose of the leg, is to hold the machine up. It's doing what it's supposed to do. The coin door, it's all rusted and everything. It's been abused, but it still shuts like it's supposed to. Whenever I hit that coin switch, it didn't work, but when I hit that one, it was able to do it, right? The start button worked. The flippers both worked, even though they're dragging the playfield. The ball was still in there, and the coil, that may have not worked in a long time, whenever all the startup sequence got done, it said, hell yeah, and kicked the ball out, right? So the thing, most of the pieces still work. Everything's designed to work, and most of them still do, but there's some that's, they need a little attention. So that's our goal. That's what we need to do to it. So I'm thrilled that it's actually attempting to work a little bit. what should we do first? I like working through them systematically so that we know we touch every little part of it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take the Playfield out, and we'll vacuum inside of it, clean that up a little bit, and start working through some of that stuff in the bottom. And that'll give us a chance to get rid of all those metal shavings before we catch something on fire. So I'll go ahead and remove the heavy Playfield. All right, so I vacuumed it up as best I could. Now, a better way to do this, if you have plenty of time. Now, keep in mind, I'm charging people for this. And, you know, this would be quite time consuming. But the best way to do this, if you're doing it as a hobby, you can actually remove all of this stuff from this board in the bottom pretty easily. That whole board will come out, but then you can take everything off of it too. And there's little stickers and paper and stuff on there. You can clean all that up. I've even seen people paint it before. It looks pretty nice. So you can imagine if that wood was like the same color blue as on the back glass or something. It's just how people pimp out their machines sometimes, but you can do it how you want. I just go through it with a vacuum and spend a good 20 minutes or so trying to vacuum up every little thing I can. And I got as much of it as I could out of there. I think I solved the mystery of the relay. So I threw away the coil because it was broke. But you see there's just one switch on it. And if you get back here to the back, that lock relay in the back is a different kind than the others. So I think they got a relay off of something and did a little upgrade action going on there. That's certainly an interesting little contraption. Do they have that wired backwards? Let me look at this one. Pretty crazy. Okay, so the purpose of that relay on this machine, now it's different on every machine, but let me tell you the purpose of that on this machine. It only has one purpose, really. See how the switch is closed right now? Because the coil is off. So what happens is when you turn the game on, that coil immediately comes on and stays on the entire time. So all it does is it opens that switch the entire time. Okay, now it's not the, let me make sure I'm right about the tilt. Yeah, okay, so there is also a tilt relay, right? So this lock relay has nothing to do with the tilt. All it's for is so that, let's say you play the game and you get to ball number 2, and then you turn off the machine in the middle of the game. That switch is connected to the game over relay. So as soon as you turn on the game, the coil will not be pulled in yet because you just turned it on. I'm talking like the second you turn it on. The split second. It's literally a piece of a second. Power will run through that switch and will trip the game over relay and put you in game over. And then the switch will open, which will release the power going to the game over relay. But the game over relay is a latch type relay. And so because of that, since the switch has opened here on the lock relay, because the game is turned on now, the whole time the game's turned on, that will have nothing to do with the game over relay coming in. So the only purpose of that whole relay is so that whenever you turn on the game, if you happen to be in the middle of a game, it will end the game. Which is pretty crazy that they would design a whole circuit for that. But that's what it's for. That's all it does. Here is I think this is the game over relay, and it's a latch type relay. So once it pulls in, it goes one way. Once it goes out, once the other one pulls in, it goes the other way. Let's see if we can tell by looking at the color of the wire. Okay, so there is a yellow wire going to one side. That's the main power, I guess. And then there is a red and blue wire coming off the other side of the switch. So if I were to turn the game on right now, power would run through that yellow wire instantly, you know, as electricity is ought to do. And we go into that blue and red wire. And that blue and red wire, wonder what it goes to. Yeah. Blue and red wire is right here. It would instantly power this and throw the game into game over. So now we're in, the game over has been reset. As soon as the game turns on, click, we're in game over. That's the only thing it does. And since it's on the entire time that the machine is on, they burn up. So how could you fix it if that's burnt up? All you got to do is just bend that switch open. If you make that switch permanently open, it will be as if the switch is permanently on. I mean, the relay's permanently on, because all the relay does is open that one switch. And the only thing that turns it on is just the main power of the machine. So, yeah. You will lose the functionality where if you put it on, you know, if you're at ball 3, the beginning of ball 3, and you turn the game off, when you turn it back on, it's going to go to game over. If you left that alone, when you turn the game back on, you could just start playing right where you were. But I guess they didn't want that. It must have been a big deal for operators for some reason. It must have had something to do with people cheating it. I suppose you could turn the game off and then manipulate it in such a way, like roll the ball. You could turn the game off and then pick up the front of it and roll the ball around on the playfield until it landed where the shot was, like in the kick-out hole or something. Put the playfield back, put the game back down, let the tilt stop waggling, and then turn the game back on, and it would go, oh, you just landed in the kick-out hole, and give you your bonus, right? And then kick it out. You could cradle the ball, turn the game off, pick up the playfield again. I guess you could just game it where you could use that feature not working as a way to cheat the game. So I guess that's why they did it. But it's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go through and start servicing these. If I see anything weird, I will point it out. But basically like that. But basically, we're just going to clean all the switches. We're going to clean the switches on the score motor. And we're going to clean and rebuild those 2 stepper units. I'm going to wait on the chimes for now because we're going to have to order some parts for that. All right, very cool. Wait till I get rid of my watch. All right, so I found a really good example of something I want to show you. Oop, too far. I always go too far. All right, so good old LED technology that over brightens everything. Ooh, we're right on the line. Okay, so that little line is an extra piece of solder, and I just moved it whenever I was messing with it. That was laid out on this blade. So this blade right here where the wire connects goes through this stack, and then this is the other side of it. So you can see the issue. The wire is soldered to this blade, which connects to this switch. But there's a splash of solder there that hangs down and touches this switch right there. So the wire on this switch is also on this switch. So in other words, the switch is shorted together. It can't come apart. It was actually worse. I moved it. It was flat where it had seeped basically right along the blade. So I'm convinced that was actually shorted together. So let me show you on a one outside of a machine so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So here's a similar one outside of a machine. The solder that is on this part, well, that doesn't really show you well, does it? Well, you can get the concept of it. The solder that is on this part is connected to that little level below it. So on the one we're messing with, this is one blade and this is the second blade. And so the solder that's here is also touching here because it's just sloppy.
So they're shorted together. Like it will never open. It'll always be electrically connected because of that. So I don't know if that's a solder splash or if it was like that from the factory or somebody's moved it around or something, but we're going to fix that. And I'm going to look in the schematics real quick and see if that particular switch being shorted, what that would make happen. Because we just saw that the thing actually does run.
Okay, so it's an interesting one. So it's that one. That switch, it's normally closed. It should open, but it looks like it never was able to open. And it is on the line that makes the coin lockout coil pull in. So the coin lockout coil is whenever the game is turned on, that comes in so that it's possible to put a quarter in the machine. If that never was to come in, the machine is actually blocked. So it's only when the 25-cent relay pulls in or something or the other, or I guess they can get power down through here. Whatever. So the purpose of it is so that whenever the machine is off, if you put a quarter in, it'll fall back out. When that coil pulls in, it's kind of like named backwards. It's kind of like the coin allow coil. When it pulls in, it allows a quarter to fall through the mech. So the reason that they have that switch on there is so that when the reset relay is doing its thing, or when the score motor is turning, that thing won't have power. So like if the game is resetting, that will turn off. Now, why would they do that? It's so that you can't put a quarter in while it's resetting and lose your quarter. Or this switch on the impulse relay, the C there with the lines through it, or I guess maybe that says index, I don't know. They're basically making it so that when the score motor's turning, you know what though? No, I'm wrong about that. That's still all going to work whether or not that's open or not. It's just so that whenever the coin relay's in, you can't put a second coin in. So it's just another way of making the coin lockout open. Either when the game's resetting, or the score motor is turning, or the coin relay is on, you can't put another quarter in, or nickel or dime, whatever it is. So it's actually designed to help you not lose money. Because the risk would be if the score motor's turning and you drop a quarter in, if you do it at just the wrong time and it hits the switch at just the wrong time, it wouldn't work. You'd lose your quarter. So it's a pretty minor thing. So even if that was like that, it wouldn't cause many problems. It would just make it where every once in a while you could lose a quarter if you were to put it in at just the wrong time while the score motor was turning, which would theoretically be in the middle of a game, or while the coin relay was pulled in. So perhaps you put one in and then immediately put another one in just right behind it, etc. Okay, so I went through and I cleaned all the rest of them. I cleaned the switches on the score motor, and I'm up to these stepper units, and so I've cleaned them the way we always do. I take sandpaper to the traces, shine them up, put super lube on it, and I noticed something strange on this one, so let me show you a little weird thing that's going on that we'll fix real quick. If you look from the top down, I noticed it when I was over here. Look at the leg on that thing and how it's bent. See how it's not straight? It's bent. And they've done that to all three of them. You can tell. Like, see how that is bent out of shape? So it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be like that. Or something like that. Right? You can bend the things pretty easy. So why are they all bent? Well, they're all bent so that they'll line up with that metal trace, right? So they have bent the thing where they're all kind of, so that they all hit that, but they're all
They are all bent backwards. Let me see if I can get it just right. All right, so the way you're supposed to do it is you're not supposed to bend those. You're supposed to move the board. So this board, notice that it's slightly crooked. This side's higher than that side. Now that may be how it's supposed to be. Sometimes they are a certain way, right? So I just bent them all back a little bit, right? And so you can actually usually move these by hand. There are 2 screws that you can loosen. One there and one below it. But when the things are so old, the board has shrunk just slightly. So usually you can just grab it and move it. And I don't know if I can do it with one hand, but I'll see. Watch me snap it in half. Come on. I think it moved slightly. Did I move it all? Still off. Let me use both hands. All right, so I used both hands and I moved it probably a 1/16 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch. All of you people in those weird countries that use the metric system, don't know what to tell you. So I moved it a little bit. So now we're in a better situation where the legs are straight, which means that the rivet hits the traces flat. Right now the rivet's rounded, but you get my point. And you don't have to bend all of them. You just move the whole plate. That's how it's supposed to be. So whenever I step it up, and you want it roughly to land on the middle of the trace. Now, more importantly than whether or not it lands on the middle of the trace is that it doesn't land on 2 traces at the same time. So if you watch that bottom one there, see it's on smaller traces. We'll position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everything's good. And then if you watch this one, position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, the whole point, don't bend the legs, people. You can bend it a little bit if you have to, but they're kind of laid out properly. You kind of need to just move the board. All right, folks, so that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. We've gotten everything down here serviced. I didn't find anything else that appeared wrong. There's still stuff to do, like the chimes, obviously, the fuses, the Jones plugs, the back box, the bottom of the Playfield, the top of the Playfield, the cabinet. And, you know, there's still the cosmetic stuff. There's still some stuff to do, so we'll have another video on it. So I hope you enjoyed it so far. I hope you don't mind hanging with us on yet another Grand Prix journey. So we will see you on the next one. Now, if you didn't see the ones that we did previously, I'll put up a playlist so you can see some of our other work on Grand Prix pinball machines. So really, it's a fantastic game. If you don't have one, pick it up, follow this playlist, and you'll fix yours too. So we'll see you on the next one.